Well, good afternoon, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. We're going to talk about flooding the market a little bit here. And I'm hoping I can get people to comprehend what's going on here. Because when I talk about flooding the market, I'm talking about their fears and everything. And people don't know what to demand. So their supply. And so we're going to talk about, first we're going to start, you see in the post it talks about what special terms do I need to know to understand this part. Before we get to that, I want to read Title 18 of the United States Code, Section 8, obligation or other security. And I don't know how this is working, but I hope everybody can see this. If not, I apologize. I'm learning as I go. Trying to do this live on my laptop for the first time. Let me go back here. And I don't see anything for screen sharing. Oh, well, I guess I'm just going to read like I normally do. But as we get started, I want to start out with the obligation or other security of the United States defined. And it says the term obligation or other security of the United States includes all bonds, certificates of indebtedness, national bank, coupons, United States notes, Treasury notes, gold certificates, silver certificates, fractional notes, certificates of deposit, bills, checks, or drafts by stamps and other representatives of value of whatever denomination issued under any act of Congress and canceled United States stamps. So, first let's talk about notes. It says bonds, includes all bonds, certificates of indebtedness, national bank currency, fiat currency, Federal Reserve notes, Federal Reserve bank notes, United States notes, Treasury notes. Notes. What's a note? A note is an IOU, a promissory note. A note, draft for money drawn by or upon authorized officers of the United States. The birth certificate, certificate of live birth, includes all bonds, certificates of indebtedness. The United States has issued a certificate of indebtedness, a promissory note. They do so every time they issue Federal Reserve notes, Federal Reserve bank notes, United States notes, Treasury notes, bonds, certificates of indebtedness, national bank currency, Everything that's been mentioned here is a note. That note is derived upon the information on it. Two persons are named on that note. They are co-owners. One of those co-owners can draw drafts for money upon authorized officers of the United States. So we can draw drafts for money upon authorized officers of the United States if we know what we're doing. Okay? So let's look at 31 CF terms do I need to know to understand this part. And when we're talking about this part, the first definition it puts up here is account. And it says account means a Treasury Direct registered account as described in section 363.1. Now, I've done a video on this section before, and this is the one that says, what is a Treasury Direct registered account? And it simply states a Treasury Direct account is an online account made by us solely in your name, in which you may hold and conduct transactions in eligible book treasury or book entry treasury securities. Now, what I want people to comprehend here is one of those securities, as we discussed in 18 U.S.C. 8, is treasury notes, obligation or other security of the United States defined. Treasury notes is a security of the United States. A treasury note is a treasury security. The next definition, and this is very important to understand when it comes to that certificate of live birth, authentication means confirming that the person accessing the Treasury Direct account is the same person whose identity was initially verified at account establishment. Meaning that the account is already established. The authentication is confirming we are now accessing that Treasury Direct account. Verbiage, it tells us the actions known as persons, the requirements of those actions in order to do so, and they tell you right here what special terms do I need to know to understand this part. And the first two are very important. Comprehend these two alone and then move on and comprehend the next one. Says automated clearinghouse means funds transfer system governed by the rules of National Automated Clearinghouse Association. National Automated Clearinghouse Association, it's a private member association, provides for the interbank clearing of electronic entry solutions. So if you are going to be a participant, and these are all terms that you're going to need to understand here, if you're going to be a participant as a co-owner, you need to authenticate that the person is a co-owner and has now access to the Treasury Direct account for funds transfers through the automated clearinghouse because you are participating as a financial institution. You are participating as a branch bank. Beneficiary. Definitive savings bond, a converted definitive savings bond, or a book entry security purchased through the Treasury Direct system. Certificate of live birth from the Secretary of State. He is part of the Treasury Direct system. Registered example proven by John Doe, Social Security number 123-45-6789, POD, payable on death, to Joseph Doe, Social Security number 987-65-4321. Beneficiary refers to the second individual. Individual means a natural person. Book entry security means a treasury security. Security means any instrument or interest described in Section 3A10 of the Securities Exchange Act of 1934, which is located at 15 U.S.C. 78C, parentheses A, parentheses, parentheses 10, parentheses. And this is located at the source 31 CFR section 1010.100. These are all things that you need to learn. All these terms that you need to understand. What special terms do I need to know to understand this part? In order to understand authentication, you need to read this part. This will walk you through what the authentication does. Everybody asks, why would I authenticate the birth certificate? This will tell you what the authentication does. You are a co-owner. You have superior interest as that co-owner. Therefore, you have superior right over their privilege as a mere trustee or administrator, as the executor of the actual estate from which this pretended estate derives from. Let's see here. Court means a court of law with jurisdiction over the parties and the subject matter. Court means a court of law with jurisdiction over the parties of the subject, or over the parties and the subject matter. The only court that has jurisdiction over my person is myself, and that is clarified under the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America. Right to be secure in persons. Their own written legislative and constitutional words say so. As it is written, so shall it be. Co-owner means either of the persons named in the registered or in the savings bond. Again, registered example, John Doe, Social Security number 123-45-6789, or Joseph Doe. Or a converted definitive savings bond. John Doe with Social Security number or John Doe. That traffic citation is now confirmed by signing it as co-owner a registration of a definitive or converted definitive savings bond. Recognize it, recognize it, authenticate it. Now they have to recognize the co-owner and his signature and the value therein. Custodian of a minor account means a person who opens an account on behalf of the minor. See section 363.27 for more information about minor accounts. I did include that in my video on section 363.10. And we discussed the primary account, minor account, linked account. And here's where I want to discuss. Matter of fact, let's go back and I'll go to 36.3 or 363.1. And down at the very bottom, it says closing an account. And this is what we call collapsing that trust. Closing an account, if a Treasury Direct primary account and all its associated linked accounts have had no holdings and no activity along with all linked accounts. Okay, if they reserve the right to close that account, if I take control of that account as a co-owner showing superior interest and a primary interest, superior voting right, whatever you want to call it, at least equal consideration to the same benefit of being able to close that account, they cannot prevent me from closing the account if I take control of that account and then just say, okay, we just don't use that person in commerce anymore. I'll use a pen name like El Hotep Second Pero. Anybody object to that? Or are you going to subject me? Because you can't subject me. You can try to subject the person now, but you don't have access to that account like I do. Benefit. This is collapsing that trust, creating our own private estate, and using it. And like I said, it closes the account, but it will always remain there. That account will always remain there. And I discussed this yesterday. We talked about in perpetuity. Oops, let me go back here. Wrong window. And I looked up perpetuity in Black's Law Dictionary. And it doesn't have in perpetuity, but we know perpetuity is just the root word and in is the prefix put upon it. So we're going to look up perpetuity here real quick, and I'm going to explain something to you. Let's see here. Perpetuity. You're so on unless you are exact with the mouse, you have a hard time. Okay, perpetuity. Perpetuity, any limitation or condition which may take away or suspend the power of alienation for a period beyond life or lives in being and 21 years thereafter. Loud versus St. Louis Union Trust Company. Loud, L-O-U-D versus St. Louis Union Trust Company. Any limitation or condition which may take away or suspend the power of alienation. Alienation. The power to disassociate. The power to move away from. Freedom of movement. Travel. Whatever you want to call it. Your liberty. Any limitation or condition which may take away or suspend the power of alienation for a period beyond life or lives in being and 21 years thereafter. Life or lives in being and 21 years thereafter. Think about that, people. That's what your perpetuity is. So anyway, let's get back to those definitions of the terms and things you need to know to understand this part Entity means any owner of a Treasury direct account that is not an individual. Individual means a natural person, so the entity is your person, not you. Entity account manager is the individual who initially opens the Treasury direct account for an entity. When you filed the SS5 Social Security application is when you opened that account. That account was there by mom and dad's signature or mom or dad's signature when they applied for a Social Security card under their account. They applied as a minor account for another minor account. Seems to be the way it works anyway in my comprehension. Anyway, the entity account manager is the individual, the natural person. Federal Reserve Bank means a Federal Reserve Bank or branch. Bank, each agent, agency, branch, or office within the United States of any person doing business in one or more of the capacities listed. A commercial bank or trust company organized under the laws of any state or of the United States. Commercial bank or trust company, Treasury Direct, co-owner of the account. A private bank, a savings and loan association or a building and loan association organized under the laws or any state or of the United States. An insured institution as defined in Section 401 of the National Housing Act. A savings bank, industrial bank, or other institution. United States. Any other organization accepting money services business chartered under the banking laws of any state and subject to the supervision of the bank supervisory authorities of a state. A bank organized under foreign law. That's your private banks. Banking association or corporation acting under the provisions of Section 25A of the Act of December 23rd, 1913, as added by the Act of December 24th, 1919. Realize the dates on these two acts here, people. December 23rd and December 24th. Most everybody was already off on vacation. So think about this stuff, people. These are important acts to look up and think about when we try to comprehend and understand the terms that we need to know to do these transfers, transactions, and this and that. So think about this stuff. Review this video. Get on here and look this stuff up. Read it. Click on these little blue line highlighted links and check out where they're sourced from and what the definitions are. Final maturity of savings bond means the date beyond which an unredeemed savings bond no longer earns interest. Perpetuity, 21 years. Series EE and Series I savings bonds. Financial institution or depository financial institution means an entity described in 12 U.S.C. 461. And when we go to 12 U.S.C. 461, it says reserve requirements. Reserve requirements, Federal Reserve requirements. When we look up Federal Reserve requirements, we want to look up the Federal Reserve Regulations Manual, PDF. Punch that into your search engine. Federal Regulations Manual. Federal Reserve Regulations Manual, PDF. Gift. This is a good one, people. Gift means a treasury security purchased for or transferred to an intended recipient without consideration. Security. A security means any instrument or interest described in Section Again, 31 CFR 1010.100. That's what the security is. Look that up. And it's either gifted to you or they charge you. I would say under this, I'm supposed to have it gifted to me. Purchased or transferred means transferred to an intended recipient. Am I not the intended recipient? Therefore, it must be transferred at no cost. See where I'm going at this? That certificate of live birth is a Treasury security that is intended for me to receive as the recipient by transfer, either as gift or by cost. I'm the one that it originates from, therefore I want it back. I am the primary co-owner. I have as executor. Incompetent individual or incompetent person means an individual, which again means the natural person who has been declared by a court to be legally incompetent. Legally incompetent means a court has declared an individual to be incapable of handling his or her business affairs. If they are not following the Federal Reserve Regulations Manual in regards to the transfer and requirement of me paying fines, fees, penalties, taxes, and such, surcharges and all that by Federal Reserve notes, then they can and may very likely be deemed incompetent. And remember that means a court of law with jurisdiction over the parties and the subject matter, and the parties are the lawful natural persons. Terms you need to understand in order to move and act upon this remedy that you have at your will. Your will and testament, living will, live in lives. Minor means an individual under the age of 18 years. Again, the term individual being the natural person. Minor account means an account that a custodian controls on behalf of the minor. And as a co-owner with primary superior interest, I am the custodian now of all accounts. I will assign a trustee or another custodian of sorts if I wish. Otherwise, I'll just remain inactive, not active, for say 2 years. And then I can close it if I wish. Online means use of the internet. So the online account, in order to access it, we have to access it through the internet, electronic means. When we authenticate this stuff, we need to do it electronically. But the only way to allow the authentication of the actual paper bond is through the U.S. Postal Service, blah, blah, blah. But that itself, in the regulations as you read them and understand them, is a converted. Remember what we were talking about, converted? Converted savings bond means a bond originally issued as a definitive bond that has been surrendered to us and converted to a book entry savings bond. What is a book entry savings bond? Book entry savings bond is a book entry security, means a treasury security maintained by us in electronic or paperless form. We were issued a bond in paper form. We give it to them to enter as a book entry security for electronic, to convert it to the book entry security. Now we can access the TDA account. Legal representative refers to the court. The court means a court of law with jurisdiction over the parties and subject matter. Appointed or otherwise qualified person. Person, an individual, a corporation, a partnership, a trust, or a state. And in this regards, if you're already given the definition of individual being the natural person, person means the natural person or a corporation, a partnership, a trust, or a state, a joint stock company, an association, or other unincorporated organization or group, an Indian tribe, and all entities cognizable as legal personalities. Recognizing the legal personality, they're recognizing the you part, they're recognizing that birth certificate of live birth, they're recognizing that authentication, regardless of title, who is legally authorized to manage and settle the estate of a decedent. The term includes an executor and an administrator. I am the executor. They are the administrator. They cannot or capacity because only I, as the originator, the original live and life being, can have executorship. Owner, when referring to an individual, is either the single individual named in the registration of a security, telling you that the security will only have a single individual, and one is an individual who has a person. Comprehend this. Held in the single owner form. Single owner means the individual named in the registration of a book entry converted savings bond without a beneficiary secondary owner. So I am not a single owner. The first individual named on a security held in the owner with beneficiary form of registration. And that is the one we're looking at. The first individual named on a security held in the owner with a beneficiary form of registration. I am the first individual. The first individual named on a security held in the primary owner with secondary owner form of registration. Or either individual named on a converted savings bond held in the co-owner form of registration when referring to a minor linked account. The owner is the minor. When referring to an entity, the owner is the entity, owner. When referring to an individual, is either the single individual named in the registration of a security held in the single owner form, entity. Entity is, come on, means any owner of a Treasury direct account that is not an individual. So you as the individual are the live life owner and the entity owner. And look here, they have a payroll savings plan as a method for the purchase of savings bond using periodic ACH credits from your employer or financial institution. So when you start acting as a financial institution, you can accrue credits, evidently. 0% certificate of indebtedness. I don't know if I want to purchase those. Yeah, I'll remain inactive. Person means an individual or an entity. Comprehend that? They just converted person to mean an individual or an entity. saying that an individual is the natural person. In other words, I'm the natural being, the natural live life being of the person known as the entity. Principal account or principal amount means the amount of the original investment. Principal amount does not include any interest earned. Person to whom a gift is given. So I think one of my questions to somebody should be, am I not the intended recipient of the certificate of live birth for authentication process so that I can stand upon a claim under that with that authority. Anyway, I'll think about that. Signature guarantee program means a signature guarantee program established under 17 CFR 24017 AD 15, issued under authority of the Securities Exchange Act. I know of no one else. I've not come across anybody else that talks about signature anywhere except the guidelines and rules, regulations, acts, or whatever of the Securities Exchange Act of 1934. Federal Reserve Act. I think those are the only things I recognize that have something to do with signature, directly relating to signature guarantee program. Signature guarantee program under the Securities Exchange Act is directly telling us that every time we give a signature, a security is not only created but exchanged. The officer gives you a citation, you give him a signature, and he takes it back. Now he gives you a copy. Is that not your receipt? Are you now not the recipient of a security? Recognize this stuff, people. Social Security account number or Social Security number means the identifying number required on tax returns and other documents submitted to the Internal Revenue Service by an individual, a natural person. A Social Security number is composed of 9 digits separated by 2 hyphens, for example, 123-45-6789. Next definition, this is very important to comprehend, people. Listen up. Taxpayer identification number means the identifying number required on tax returns and other documents submitted to the Internal Revenue Service. Social Security account number or Social Security number means the identifying number required on tax returns and other documents submitted to the Internal Revenue Service by an individual. That is an individual's Social Security number. Taxpayer identification is an individual's Social Security number or an employer identification number. So a tax identification number is the Social Security number or an employer identification number. One or the other. Every time you use that Social Security number, you're applying that you have a tax identification number and therefore you're taxable. Operate the person from the correct capacity as the primary account owner with primary superior interest drawing the orders to draft the payments. Check. Tender. We always think we're going to tender payment. We're going to tender payment. Tender means an offer or bid. Is that a bid bond? Uh-huh. You got to offer, you got to put up an amount as a bid to purchase a marketable Treasury security. A marketable Treasury security refers to a Treasury bill, note, or bond that is negotiable and transferable, that is, may be bought and sold in the secondary market. I promise to appear. Is that a promissory note that you just signed? You just signed a promissory note promising to appear. Better appear in the right capacity. Think about this stuff, people. And it says, what special terms do I need to know to understand this part? You want remedy? Here it is. Everything is an obligation or other security of the United States. Everything is an obligation or other security of the United States. And every time you sign something, you're creating a new security. You're fine to go ahead and create those securities if you know your capacity, status to have standing as the executor to execute how it operates in commerce, how you become the admiral of the ship within your fleet of persons, whom are all captains of those ships. And they are the one making the transfers. They're the ones performing the commercial, putting on the commercial performance. Think about this stuff, people. I hope my discussion here helps open up your eyes and get you to really look into this and the other codes that I mentioned there. And remember, people, when I get done here, I'm going to add a PayPal link and my Patreon link. I just started my new Patreon channel. I'm looking for subscribers that are looking for a more solidified platform of following down a direct line rather than just a bunch of discombobulated information. Like I said, I'm getting ready to put together my PMA and my private trust and establish my own self as a financial institution, managing my own finances while remembering that the finance part of it comes to that U.S. person. I'm just going to let him sit idle so he can't create any more debt. I don't have to sign things. And if I do it in the right capacity so that he's not the one that's being operated. He's just the minor account now. I have a primary account on the private side, and he is deposited as the minor account for conversions. Any savings bond securities that are created, they get converted immediately, electronically. How so? Because I let my yea be my yea and my nay be my nay, as the natural live life being that they define as an individual, meaning a natural person, separate and distinct from an entity, which can be nothing but a person in the fictional sense. So think about this stuff, people, and realize if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be doing this. I really do appreciate the new laptop. My last fund drive worked out great. realize that as well. I can help you more effectively and with more and better quality. The more you help me attain this stuff and learn how to, like I said, I apologize. I don't know the screen sharing thing yet, but the more you help me learn in that, as well as help send me gratuities in the Federal Reserve form, as well as products and items that I'm looking for in regards to um, knives, doing my own knives so I can sell knives for Federal Reserve notes, so I'm not just accepting nothing but gratuities. I like to give physical form things back or exchange them. I want to get back into that and show people how to do it securely. Um, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be doing this. God bless you. I hope to show a great example here in the future. Please check out my PayPal or drop me something on PayPal or check out my Patreon. Right now, I don't have any tiers set up for subscriptions, but I hope to do that real soon. Meantime, God bless. Love you. Bye.